Steve Mignani here doing the junkyard crawl at Bernardston Auto Wrecking in Bernardston, Massachusetts with the story of the Dodge Magnum. Now most people think Magnum, they think of the 2004-2008 Dodge Magnum station wagon, SRT8 with 425 horsepower, cool stuff. Well, we got to remember the Dodge Magnum actually debuted in 1978, was only made for 2 years, 78 and 79. Now the Magnum was basically the same car as the Chrysler Cordoba with one big difference. The nose. The Cordoba had this big goofy air catching device, whereas the Magnum had a streamlined nose. Now the reason for it was two things: miles per gallon, fuel efficiency, and NASCAR. Now we know that in 1969, of course, the Charger Daytona arrived on the scene. This was Dodge's homologation special to go NASCAR racing. Well, in 78, they also went NASCAR racing. Richard Petty, right there. That's his 1978 race car, and the nose on that thing, the aerodynamics of that were absolutely designed with NASCAR in mind. And the bottom line was, by mid-1978, Petty had trouble with the Magnum. He said that it was undrivable at 190 miles an hour, so he switched to Oldsmobile halfway through 78. Another part of the picture was the small block Mopar 355 V8 wasn't as highly developed as the Chevy 355 was. So Petty jumped ship, but again, Magnum was the final car Petty ran in. Now the thing about Magnum's nose is these headlight covers right here. You know, unlike the Cordoba's big air catchers, these actually have retractable covers. These are plastic, unlike the 65, 66 Chrysler Imperial, which actually had a glass panel. But these are plastic, but because they're not really clear, these fold down with electric motors to expose the quad headlamps inside when you want to turn the lights on. But again, this is an aero nose for sure. Now here's the thing, under the hood and from the fenders back, the Cordoba and the Magnum are kind of the same car, as was the Dodge Charger up till 1978 and a half. Now in this one here, we take a peek under the hood, and there is, this is a 360, the intake and heads are gone, but in 1978, the 400 big block was final year option. It went away after 78 as Chrysler got away from building V8s. In fact, they scrapped their tooling as part of their agreement with the government to focus on fuel-efficient cars, front-wheel drive. So in 79, all big block engine stuff was pretty much scrapped except for heavy truck use. But the Magnum here was also available in 78 only with the 400 big block. 79, the 360 or the 318 were the only engines. No 6 cylinders, but this one here, okay, this has the base 318, 1978. And again, no 6-cylinder motors in the Magnums. But this one here has, that's right there, that is the lean burn system. That arrived in 1976, and believe it or not, 76 and 77, it was so effective that Chrysler Corporation cars didn't need catalytic converters in 48 states. It was that good. You get into 78, yes, the catalytic converter finally arrived as smog standards got tighter and tighter. The way the lean burn works is that there are sensors to monitor engine speed, air temperature, et cetera, and what they do is they monitor the the spark delivery to optimize it for the leanest possible combustion. And what the lean burn system is, it's a computer on the air cleaner. Trouble is, this is prone to heat and damage from vibration, so these things would sometimes go bad. But that's the locked out distributor, this thing right here. You won't find a vacuum pot on that. That's because this distributor is locked out. There's no advance curve in that, because the computer tells the distributor how and when to fire the plugs for the leanest possible mixture. Now again, these tended to run a little warmer, and we notice here the battery is encased in a white plastic structure. Well, that was to keep the battery cooler with the increased underhood temperatures, and this is actually the windshield washer fluid right here built into the battery cover to help insulate the battery from underhood temperatures. Kind of a one part does two jobs arrangement. So it would be nice to see the 400 big block in its final year here under the hood, but this is the 318 base engine, but that's okay. Now the Magnum, the front fenders on the Cordoba are the same, and again, it's all about the end caps. We see right here the Magnum's fascia, which is fiberglass, and the Cordoba's fascia, which is longer, also fiberglass, but the same steel fender is used. In fact, the same windshield, the same doors, the same unit construction. And one thing about the Magnum and the Cordoba, which came to an end in 1979, these are Dodge and Chrysler's final B-body platforms, which arrived in 1971, the third gen B-body, and the final Chrysler cars with longitudinal torsion bars. The Marauder that replaced the Magnum in 1980 had transverse torsion bars like the 76 Up, Volare, and Aspen. Now, production on these things in 1978 was 47,827 units, and in 1979, the second and final year, there were 25,367. So under 70,000 of these things were made in that 2-year run. Now, let's take a peek and walk around if you would, and we'll look inside this. And of course, these have the same Ochborough window that was debuted on the Pontiac Grand Prix, and pretty much everybody played follow the leader between the Grand Prix and the Chevy Monte Carlo. But again, same basic everything. Now, this does have the optional leather interior, the chronometer in the dashboard, and of course that was a big deal. That was a digital clock, and of course chronometer is fancy for clock. But again, this one has the column shifted torque flight, no 4-speeds, no manual transmissions in Magnums. They were all automatics, but some did have buckets and a center console with a shifter down low on the floor. But again, a close coupled personal luxury car is what Magnum was all about. And one thing I love about these and the Cordoba is the humped rear quarter panels. Kind of a wide body look, almost like what the the BMW M3, kind of the same idea, wide body. These really look good with 15x7 steel wheels or rally wheels added to them. Now, there was a Magnum GT, which was a performance model with fiberglass fender flares, but this is the basic XE. Now, the deck lid on this is the same as the Cordoba, and let's take a look inside. I love this moss house right here. You gotta wonder what's inside of that thing. I don't want to know. But in the back here, let's open her up, and okay, there's that classic massive Chrysler trunk compartment. And again, this is a unit construction car. It's not a body on frame, but again, the final year for the B-body, which arrived, of course, in 1962, was changed up in 66, and in 1971, the third generation B-body arrived, and this is basically an evolution of that with its longitudinal torsion bars. Now, at the back of these, of course, always leaf springs and a live axle, and this one probably has the 8 1/4 rear axle. There was the 9 1/4 that was used. It was a heavy-duty piece on the 400 cars and certain 360, the E58 dual exhaust 4-barrel 360 cars. But again, this one certainly has the 8 1/4 little dinky axle, because that 318 2-barrel lean burn is not going to break any axle shafts. Let's come around to this side and continue our walk. And again, the quarter panels, the same as the Chrysler Cordoba, but again, the magic of the end cap, these puppies right here, which are bolted on, are different and give the Magnum its unique look with these sort of curved red taillights, but the same steel is shared between the Cordoba and the Magnum. Another way, of course, that Chrysler made one part do a bunch of jobs. Cost cutting. Inside, well, there it is. This one had power windows, which were an option. They've been removed here. The tilt column, and I believe this one has the 80-mile-an-hour speedometer, which was in its infancy at this point in time. Anyway, air conditioning, of course, on this one, but typically fitted out. Now, again, these were very uncommon with the 400 big block, which had a 4-barrel and, yes, lean burn, but again, something 180 horsepower, and that was net, which is like 260 in the gross world of the 1960s. So that's the story of the final Dodge B-body, but the first Magnum. Now, you've got to remember, too, that I think in Mexico and Brazil, the Magnum nameplate was also used on certain Volare and Dodge Dart type vehicles. But again, here in the States, the Magnum started right here in 1978. And of course, 2004 through 2008, the station wagon, which had to go away for the Challenger to happen. So that was a worthwhile sacrifice. But again, here's the story of Dodge's last B-body, and the Dodge Magnum. Rest in peace. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the Steve Maggs YouTube channel, but there's a lot more to come. Stick around, and tomorrow we'll have a fresh video for you.